Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our podcast today. These podcasts are brought to you in part by our sponsors, who really truly are what make these podcasts possible every week. O'Fallon Nutrition is a company that I've worked with for over 15 years. They're independently owned and operated, located here in O'Fallon, Missouri, right off of Highway K and Mexico Road. I call this place the Whole Foods of St. Charles County, but even if you are not located on this side of the river, it is still worth the drive. I can remember working all the way down at Powerhouse and still sending people out to O'Fallon Nutrition for their supplements. They are more than a supplement company. You can get grass-fed beef, salad dressing, seasoning for your cooking, hair care products, makeup, deodorant, toothpaste, essential oils, and all the vitamins and minerals that you can think of. If you're looking for clean, whole food nutrition, as well as home care, house care, skincare products, O'Fallon Nutrition is your place. You can take a look at them at o'fallonnutrition.com, or if you'd like to have something shipped, if you're listening to me from outside of St. Louis, you can certainly have items shipped. I know they do free shipping if it's an order over $50, and the phone number is 636-240-5283. Again, it's o'fallonnutrition.com. As well as if preparing your food on a weekly basis is your primary excuse for why you're not able to stay on a good, clean eating program, which is something that I hear very regularly from my clients, I would ask you to please take the time to check out Pure Plates. It's pureplatesstl.com. They are a phenomenal place. We get our food from there during the week. They deliver to our Integrity location. They will deliver to your house. They also are just available for pickup. You can go to their Chesterfield location or their Kirkwood location and just pick up meals for the day, as well as just having them delivered right to your door. So if preparing your food is your main excuse for why you cannot stay on a healthy eating program, then I would suggest just stop by Pure Plates. Just try it. If you're trying to lower your blood pressure, you're trying to lower your cholesterol, you're trying to get your blood sugar down, try to do Pure Plates meals for a week and just see how different you feel. These are organic meals. They are gluten-free. If you need them to be, they can be dairy-free. They are soy-free. You're not taking any processed sugars or meat-curing agents or preservatives. They really, truly believe in nutrient-dense meals that are just whole food nutrition. And I've had my clients, or I've made recommendations for my clients for years at Pure Plates. It's pureplatesstl.com, or you can call them to ask questions at 636-778-3555. Again, remembering that they have a location in Chesterfield as well as in Kirkwood that you can just run by and pick up a meal today. Everyone always asks me where I get my meat from, and given that I really eat meat on a daily basis, typically beef primarily, my meat is very important to me. I have an autoimmune condition and I want grain-free, corn-free meat, and I just haven't found the confidence in stores in knowing that I'm getting 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef. And I have searched and searched and searched for the right farm, and I have found the farm. It's fedfromthefarm.com, fed, F-E-D, from thefarm.com. These farmers are amazing. It's a family. They're here in Missouri, and they have the desire, just like I do, to see people well and to see people healthy, and they put a lot into what they do. It's such a wonderful family to support. They do offer 100% grass-finished, grass-fed, meaning that's it. A beef, and I get my ribeyes, I get my ground beef, my ground sirloin, I get my chuck roast. I mean, they basically have everything. They even have awesome jerky, but they also have eggs, they have chickens, and they have turkey. I'm planning on getting a turkey for Thanksgiving, and if you'd like lamb, they have that as well. But if you are in need of good quality grass-fed, grass-finished beef, or quality eggs, chicken, turkey, don't just settle for what you're getting at the local store. to go out on the internet and check out Fed from the Farm. That you can arrange a pickup or you can have it delivered to your home. And I can guarantee you're going to taste the difference. For me, my health actually depends on it. So I really thank God to have found such a great farmer. Fedfromthefarm.com. I hope it blesses you.
Welcome to Faith, Fuel, and Fitness, the Integrity Way, with your hosts, John and Debbie Morris from Integrity Training Systems.
Hey everybody, this is John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. Always like to start the show by talking about what it means to be a warrior. And I always give the definition of a warrior, which is a brave or experienced soldier or fighter. And as we say every week, I love the ors in that statement. You know, you don't have to be brave and you don't got to be a soldier. You can be experienced and you can be a fighter. That'll turn you into a warrior. And experience just means you've done something that wasn't easy. And fighter means that you didn't give up on at least something in your lifetime. So if you've ever taken anything on that was hard, whether you remember doing it or not, and you overcame it, then you get to be a warrior. And what does it mean to be a warrior? Well, a warrior means that you just stay in the fight. Life is a fight, and there's not a single person that has it, quote unquote, easy. You know, a lot of times it's easy with social media nowadays to just look around and wish you were somebody else, and it actually kind of ticks me off. I don't get on social media myself other than occasionally on Instagram to watch like babies and dogs and people falling through roofs, you know, the stuff that's really cool. And I just can't watch it. I can't get on Facebook. I can't watch people post fake stuff or complain about stuff or woe is me or must be nice or, you know, look at all my fancy things, even though they're potentially like super in debt, and it makes other people like lust after what they have, because it's such an world that presents these falsities that make people think that they're not doing as well as someone else or that they're not as qualified as someone else. And you know, a lot of times being a warrior is what you do alone. You know, it's like, what do you do to overcome? Now, that doesn't mean not having, you know, people that you press into when you do need the backup. But what it does mean is not complaining. What it does mean is not comparing. It means acknowledging that you're going to have to go about things and overcome things because they're going to come at you. And no matter where you are in life, you know, maybe you're a billionaire. And most people will look at you and say, I wish I was a billionaire. But what they don't understand is that you have $100 million coming out of your bank account every month in payroll for your company. And that inside of a year, if you weren't to make money, you'd be bankrupt and that many people would be out of employment. That's a lot of stress. Yes. You know, maybe you live under a bridge and it's 12 degrees outside and you don't have a blanket. That's a lot of stress. So you are where you are, so quit comparing yourself to other people is what I'm trying to get across here. But what can you do to make it better? I mean, for us, it's like we just press into God. You know, if you don't have God in your life, I always say this all the time, like if I didn't have God in my life, I should have failed so many times by now, because my breaking point is God's building point, and I know that I've required a lot of building because I've had a lot of breaking. But whatever you're attempting to overcome right now, I just want to promise you that you're not alone in it. Someone else is either fighting the same battle or has fought the same battle. And if you take a look around you and I don't mean on social media, I mean on Google, looking up like, how do I attack this? How do I overcome this? There's going to be recommendations. And there's a difference between looking around you at how other people are doing and looking for information on how to fight the fight that you're in instead of just looping. And so many people I listen to say, well, I'm just on the grind. I'm just on the hamster wheel. I'm just on that 9 to 5. Like, I can't wait to get to the weekend. Well, what are you trying to outrun? You know? And I had a men's group. We've got a men's group that I started a couple months ago, and we met this last weekend, and we were discussing basically not feeling qualified. You know, not being qualified to take on the things that are coming at you. And we discussed on, you know, King David, basically his childhood, which ultimately led up to him becoming what everybody knows, whether you're a Christian or not. Most people know that David became a king, and he did so after slaying a giant. But what they don't pay attention to is how he became a giant slayer, what happened up until the time he slayed Goliath, and then what happened between the time he slayed Goliath and became a king and what happened during his kingship. A lot of people might look at him and say, well, that's nice. He killed a giant and must have been nice to be king. But if you actually read the story, it was pretty bad. I mean, this guy had a lot of problems. He dealt with anxiety, dealt with depression. He made a lot of mistakes. He did a lot of terrible things. He had to overcome those. He didn't want to be king. There's just so many elements of his story that are left out. And that's what I mean about watching people on social media. It's like, wow, that guy looks like a Greek god. I wish I had his abs. Well, what you don't know is he has ulcerated colitis and he's actually dying in between the times he posts a picture, but he's not telling you that because he's selling you a program on how to look like him. So David was just so amazing because what he did is every time that he would run into something that he didn't feel like he could take on, he would pray about it. He'd go to God and he would ask for the assistance. You know, he would set himself up to have more strength than he actually had. And in doing so, he became even stronger. You know, and so what I challenge people to do and what I challenge this group to do is acknowledge, like, what are you actually fighting? To be a warrior, you have to know what your opponent is. So whatever you're dealing with right now, instead of saying, I hate my job or I hate my life or I hate my marriage, what do you hate about your job? What do you hate about your life? And what do you hate about your marriage? Because if you narrow in on the battles and you pay attention to the details and you handle the details and you handle the battles, you're more likely to win the war.
Absolutely. I think that for me, like a couple of things that have come up in the week, like for clients, for our daughter, for ourselves, things that sort of resonated that I would just, if I just like had bullets, it would be, what is your compass? Like, who is your compass? What's leading you? What's guiding you? And so, like, is Christ really your true compass, or are you being impacted by the influence of these posts or these other people and their lifestyle and the way that they're choosing to do things? There was a moment where I was talking with my good friend Rochelle, who I've had on the show multiple times, and she said, you know, what you take in is what will come out. And so, you know, she was just talking about, you know, I have a hard time listening to this or that. And I said, you're right. I have someone who's leading me and guiding me in business, and I have learned a tremendous amount from this person. And I truly want to continue to learn a tremendous amount from this person. But unfortunately, the language is very, very harsh. And she said, Deb, the other day I heard you curse, and I've never heard you curse before. And I was really surprised by that. And I was like, you did? And she was like, yes, you said SHIT. And I was like, I did? And she said, yeah, I was just really surprised by that. Now, she wasn't being rude or like negatively bashing me or anything. She was just saying, I was pretty surprised by that, Deb, because like when I was growing up, we didn't refer to our bottoms as our butt, because it felt like calling your bottom your butt was almost like a curse word. So like I grew up on Walton's Mountain. So for me to say the S word, it's just very out of character for me. So what I'm taking in without knowing it is actually starting to come out of me. And yes, it's an incredible direction from a business perspective, but is it the direction that I should be going in other areas of my life? And can I filter? Am I going to be capable of filtering so that I don't take that in and continue to spew that back out? So I guess one thing I would say, you know, from a warrior standpoint is every warrior has a plan. They have a battle plan. Like, remember we watched, was it The Last Kingdom? Was that that show?
Yes.
That was an outstanding show. And I'm really not a TV watcher. You know, a lot of stuff just isn't clean enough for me, and I feel super. I just feel super conflicted when I watch it, and I go away feeling like I shouldn't have watched that. That show was pretty decent, and there was this one battle part. I don't know if you remember, where they burned those guys' boats. They burned the Vikings' boats.
Yep.
And that was like their way up. They were like up high, right?
Yes.
And then they got down and got into the water, burned the boats, and then the people they were trying to basically kill, the Vikings, were down low.
Right.
And so boats were burned. They were up high. They were down low. They have nowhere to go. They don't have any boats to get on, and they're down low. And these guys are coming in down on them. And so they basically like we're dead, more or less. So what warrior doesn't have a strong, solid battle plan and a plan B and this could happen and that could happen and all the possibilities, right? So what is that compass for your life? What is guiding you? What is directing you? What is that primary source that you rely on that really gives you the guidance on what direction you should go? In my opinion, I'm not trying to say I'm perfect. I'm not trying to say John's perfect, but we sure do our level best. I really, truly believe that should be Jesus. But we're going to spend the rest of the show also talking about other forms of that, whether that's guidance through your nutrition, guidance through your exercise, guidance through, mental strength, influence in business, all of those things. You need the appropriate guidance and the appropriate leadership, and what you're taking in will come back out. So make sure it's appropriate for you. For more information on what we do at Integrity Training Systems with a 6-month nutrition program with myself or a free personal fitness assessment, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. For gluten-free, dairy-free baked goods delivered to your door from my personal bakery, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com.
Welcome back, everybody. It's John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. Just got done talking to you about what it means to be a warrior and how everybody is capable of being one. It's really just a decision on the fact that you're going to do it. And it's pretty cool. I want to talk a little bit more about being a warrior beyond kind of what we talked about. And we had an 80-year-old gentleman that came into our facility last weekend, and he actually approached me, I guess about a month ago. He came into our gym, and I was training somebody, and he asked if he could speak to one of the owners. And so I went aside, and he started talking to me, and I ended up ultimately telling him, like, hey, I got a client I got to get back to, but let me call you. And what he wanted to do was, his daughter had been a client of Debbie's like a decade ago. And so he works out at home, and he was looking for somebody that had a gym that he could invite around 15 to 20 people to come watch him do a couple things, because he basically just wanted to present himself as an overcomer, like someone who is able to do something that most people tell him that you shouldn't be able to do, or you shouldn't do for that matter. And so within about 5 minutes of talking to the guy, I'm just like, yep, like, let's do it. And he's like, oh, I mean, I haven't even given you my whole sales pitch yet. And I'm like, no, I'm in. Like, let's just make it happen. And he's like, well, I don't know how much I'd have to pay you for the use of your facility. I'm like, all you got to pay me is you let me record you a little bit and just post about your story. He's like, oh gosh, yeah. He's like, the more people that could potentially know about it, the better. And it was really funny, just a side note, because he was like, yeah, I was looking for a photographer to come and take some pictures. And then my wife, as she was looking, was like, I think you're looking for a videographer. Because we started Googling, we didn't even know that was a thing. There's people that have come take videos of you. So I just thought that was pretty sweet, Great, yeah. And so they had a videographer come out. And anyway, what he did was, he had a heart attack like 16 years ago. And they basically told him, that would have been when he was, early to mid 60s. They basically told him that he didn't have long to live. He had to lose weight. He had to do all these protocols. And that even still, he had the widowmaker blockage, as well as 3 other blockages. He probably wouldn't live for much more than about 5 years. Well, he's done that. He looks phenomenal. He's got single digits body fat, and he doesn't look 80, that's for sure. So what he did was, he came in and he wanted to do a chin-up, multiple chin-ups, and push-ups to show that, you can fight age. And so he had about 15 people that came and watched. And he started with a weighted chin-up. And he ended up doing a chin-up with 82 pounds strapped to him and a belt that weighs 2.5 pounds. It was 85 pounds, because his intention was to do a chin-up with 1 pound for every year of his life. So an 80-year-old man did a chin-up with 85 pounds attached to him. And if you're listening to this, I challenge you to ask yourself if you can do 1 body weight chin-up, because it is a very small percentage of the population that can do a chin-up. Even people who work out frequently aren't necessarily guaranteed to be able to do one, let alone with 80 pounds. And another consideration is the guy weighs 175. So he did a chin-up with almost half of his body weight attached to him. And then after that, he did push-ups, and then he did chin-ups. And they had some fun. You know, he basically did a raffle where he let his friends, you know, guess how many they thought he would be able to do, and then the closest one won some stuff. But he did 70 push-ups, and then afterwards he did, I think it was 19 chin-ups unweighted, you know, within about a 25-minute time period. He did all 3 of those things. But guy's 80 years old. And basically what he did is he took a red alert moment. You've heard me call it that terminology in the past that otherwise could have scared him, could have made him feel like he shouldn't have done anything, could have made him feel like he was, you know, going to rush his lifespan and cause him to die even quicker. And he said, no, I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to fight through this. And he had multiple doctors and multiple people tell him that it wasn't healthy. It wasn't going to be okay. He shouldn't work out as hard as he works hard. He shouldn't do these things. He shouldn't do any of it. But he had one cardiologist, his cardiologist, that went to bat for him and always told him, no, as long as you're doing this rehab stuff, as long as you're doing what I've told you to do, I think it's great that you add strength training in, and gives him all the positive benefits of it and the philosophy behind it. So at least he had that guy in his corner. So what am I trying to tell you is, first off, that this 80-year-old man is awesome. His name's Jim Smith, and we're going to post some stuff about him on our social media here in the next couple of days. And then the videographer is going to actually forward us the video as well, so we'll be able to give you the whole shebang. But what I'm telling you is, even when you're warrioring through something, you might have a lot of people that you trust or you care about, and maybe they even care about you. I'm not going to go as far as to say they don't care about you, but they may not actually have your back on what you're warrioring. Like, someone can love you and not believe in you. You know, so you may be telling the wrong person what you're trying to take on, what you're trying to overcome, what you're trying to come back from, what you're trying to accomplish, and they may not be in your corner on it. You know, you might be trying to get yourself healthy and someone's telling you it's just one cake. You know, you might be trying to overcome diabetes and someone's like, well, I mean, is it that big of a deal that you just have some alcohol every other day? You know, it's like, it actually is. You know, it doesn't mean that they don't necessarily care about you. It absolutely can mean that. If you explain to them why and they still try to put it on you, I would question their care. But you may have to go at some things with a different team than you're used to having. You know, you might have to be alone for a little bit. You might feel like you're left out to dry. You might be in the wilderness until you can find these people, but I challenge you to keep searching for them. I mean, that's what we do for a living. You know, I teach people how to train, how to avoid injury, how to not get hurt, how to, you know, stay strong, how to build their athleticism, how to get their lungs back. Debbie teaches people how to eat, how to make sure they're healthy, that their gut's well, their sleep's better, all of their functionality comes back. You know, these are the things we do. But on top of that, like, we become your brother and sisters in arms. Like, we go shoulder to shoulder with you because we know that's a large element in the health community that is missing nowadays. Like, a large element that is missing is people that'll actually go to bat for you. It's this 70-30 rule, this 80-20 rule, this 90-10 rule. And you know what? That's great. If that's what you want to do, if that's what you need, and you want to deal with some of the symptoms and things you're dealing with, and that works for you, then fine. But you're dealing with things, and that's why you're looking. Like, if you're dealing with gut issues, if you're dealing with chronic pain, if you're dealing with migraines, then maybe you should consider that the stuff that you're being told you can have 10% of is actually poisoning you. You know, if someone's able to do 10% and they have zero issues, which is going to be a really rare part of the percentage, good for them. But whatever your walk is, find someone that'll go to war with you, someone that'll actually care to help you.
Yeah, 10% of poison in moderation is still poison. So if the body is not feeling where you think it should be, and you know that you're still drawing that poison in, then the best thing you can do for yourself is to remove that poison and see if you can't get some breakthrough on how you're feeling. And that's exactly what we help people do. For more information on a 6-month nutrition program with us at Integrity, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. For gluten-free, dairy-free baked goods delivered to your door, please take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com.
Welcome back, everybody. This is John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. Kind of continued last segment about what it meant to be a warrior. Didn't necessarily intend to do that, but just kind of feel a little bit motivated and fire up to just talk to you guys. I feel like somebody's listening and you're trying to overcome something and you're probably not doing well with it. Maybe it's your food, maybe it's your workouts, maybe it's your health, maybe it's your marriage. Who knows what it might be. And I was talking to my client actually right before I came in here, and we were talking about just details, just the little things. Like if you're not winning the details, like the details are the battle that ultimately lead to the winning of the war, which is what the goal is. And so if you're not paying attention to the details, then you're probably not doing too well in the war. You're probably not doing too well in overcoming what you're trying to overcome, because they matter. And like I said a couple segments ago, if you're dealing with something like a bad marriage or a tough marriage or a hard time at work, like break it down. What's actually hard about it? Like what are you struggling with? What's making it bad? Like what makes it worth hanging in there for? And what's interesting about that is you start to realize that there are things that are outside of your control. There are elements that you aren't going to be able to change. But then you start to realize the elements that you can change. And once you acknowledge the elements that you can change, you start being able to build, as Debbie said in the last segment, a battle plan, a plan of action. But what's really wild is if you're really honest with yourself and you jot these things down, things that are out, things that you want to correct, things that you want different, things that are out of your control to get those, and things that are within your control. Sometimes what you'll realize is the things that are within your control are actually the things that you're upset about. If you look at, like, let's just take a marriage, for example. Maybe you're annoyed at something your spouse does or says to you or how they act. What if, hear me out for a second here before you guys tune me out. What if you are actually doing something that is causing them to do what you're not happy about as a reaction? Like what would be an example? Well, an example would be like, what if your spouse is telling you something that you need to do, and it's something that you need to do? Like take the trash out? Sure, that's an example. Let's say you're supposed to take the trash out. Okay. So that's a pretty simple one. Okay. Let's say you're supposed to come home from work and you've worked a hard day and you're supposed to go in the kitchen and you're supposed to take the trash out. Okay. So you come home, kick your boots off. You're a guy that's just ran a Bobcat, and you also work on a skyscraper. And I'm going to give you like the hardest job that's ever, it's like, hopefully the Bobcat's not on top of the skyscraper. It is on the skyscraper. Holy cow. And it's actually off the back end of a crane. Okay. And you swing that crane, but you do it by hand. Oh, Lord. I opened the door to this. Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah, so listen, you are the hardest worker in America. Got it. Okay. Like that's like it is you. Yes. Okay. So you come home Boots are off. And you are boot off. You are worn out. Okay. Got it. And you walk right by the trash can. You forget because you're exhausted. Right. And you slap down on the couch. Your wife opens the drawer to the trash can to throw away the eggshells from the food that she's making for you. Uh-oh. And so she says, this isn't going well. Honey biscuit, you didn't take the trash out. Okay. And now all of a sudden you're pissed off. Does she say it nice? Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, she says it nice. I mean, that will help, I think. Yeah. Don't you think? Okay. No, he's mad because he's you have no idea. I'm talking like the other end of the spectrum, like
from the wife's perspective, like, hey, maybe you don't like snap at someone about needing to take the trash
Well,
out.
we're going to get to the wife and how she needs to just chill out here in a minute.
Got it.
Okay. No. All right. So stick with me here, Deb. Like, stay the course.
Honey
okay.
biscuit.
Like,
Okay.
honey biscuit. And so he hasn't taken the trash out. Okay. So he gets pissed off. Like, I worked hard today. I didn't take the trash out. That is such a minuscule thing. Like, that's what you're going to get hung up on. Like, I'll get the trash. Well, now you're frustrated. You fired off. She's frustrated because she's been fired off on. Starts the argument.
She wasn't even mad. Right?
She wasn't even mad.
She was just
you
like,
just
hey, if you don't
she
mind,
needs the
it's
trash taken out
overflowing.
because she's cooking, and that's
cooking.
your task.
Got
okay.
it. Okay.
Now let's say she is mad.
I was just trying to understand where she was at.
Yeah. But Deb, this isn't about us. Okay.
Oh, I didn't think it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we haven't had plans
Yeah.
for issues with the trash for 12 years.
Yeah, that's because I come home from my Bobcat job and I take the trash out.
You know what it is?
What?
It's because the people that walk our dogs take our trash out.
That's true. They
recognized very early on that you needed to be able to come home and not have anything you had to do.
They do help with that.
Yeah,
okay,
it
now
helped our
I wasn't
marriage.
going to go into that just yet, but let's go into that. We have people that have to walk our dogs. Like, we have to have people go to walk dogs. We have long work days. So we have to pay someone to come walk our dogs. A point of contention could be me having to come home, take the trash out, and forgetting. Like Deb said, we never had that happen, but what if it was a point of contention?
Yeah.
Part of a battle plan is
It is a point of contention for a lot of people.
Yeah, I know.
This
I know.
is a
That's why
good
we're talking about
conversation.
it. So part of the battle plan is, hey, listen, they're already there. They have to take the dogs in and out. Why don't they grab the bags? We pay them. They grab the bags, they run to the trash, and we don't got to do that at the end of the day.
Trash, dishes.
So we have them.
A load of laundry.
We have them do that. So like, I understand you might be listening and saying, well, I can't pay someone to walk my dogs. I can't pay someone to do that. So I understand everybody has a different walk of life. Okay,
We just
but
work an extra
but
hour.
I work extra so that I can have someone take care of my dogs because it's important to me that they take care of my 4 dogs.
Right.
So, I work long hours for that. I get to the gym at 4:30 in the morning and I don't leave the gym till 8:30 at night. Right. So that's why I can afford to do that. My point is not about what you can afford. My point is about, are you doing something to avoid that conflict? It's within your control. So I'm doing something to promote that my family is taken care of that ultimately allows me to do something to not end up in this situation. So back to the fake people. If you're getting ticked off because you're asking to accomplish a task that is within your control and it's ultimately creating an argument, your wife isn't the reason that argument started. The reason that argument started is because you're insecure about the fact you didn't do something you should have done, and now you're in an argument blaming her for saying something to you.
Right.
That's your problem, okay? So that's an easy correction. Now, let's say your wife snaps at you, okay? And you're like, well, she snapped at me and that's why I'm mad. Okay, well, you're mad because she snapped, all right? But why is she mad? What's wrong with her day? You've not asked. You don't know what's going on. And hear me out for a minute, versus snapping back and creating an astronomical, cataclysmic, nuclear warfare argument, how hard would it be to be like, you're right, and take the trash out? Probably going to de-escalate the situation. It's not going to hurt. Okay, so here's the point I'm getting at with you with all of that, fake talk about, husband and wife and trash. Like, it's a real situation, guys. What battle are you in right now that seems so simplistic that we're speaking about it as a joke, but it's actually altering the course of your life? Because all you can think about is my wife is always nagging at me. I hate my coworkers. I hate my job. I hate how out of shape I am. I talked about this at the men's group too. The details. If you're telling yourself that you're unhealthy and unwell, and you really are, you need to lose 120 pounds, your heart's bad, and I tell you to work out 20 minutes a day, and you're like, well, I can't work out, I can work out 20 minutes a day, but that's a waste. It's only 20 minutes. Nope. Well, 20 minutes times 7 is 140. That's 2 hours and 20 minutes, which becomes 4 hours and 40 minutes biweekly, which becomes 6 hours or 7 hours in 3 weeks, which becomes 9 hours and 20 minutes a month.
Who even does that?
Okay.
Quickly?
So 9 hours and 20. Oh boy. 9 hours and 20 minutes a month. I want you to hear this out. Okay. We train 50-minute sessions. Okay. So that's 100 minutes if you train twice a week. That's 200 minutes if you train that for 2 weeks, and that's going to be 400 minutes if you train that over the course of a month. Okay. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's 6 hours. I have people that work out twice a week that are in phenomenal shape, maintain muscle mass, and are healthy from the ages of 20 to the ages of 80.
Yeah.
And that is less time put in than what I just told you at 20 minutes a week. Now, let's say you take a couple days off throughout the week. That's okay too, because now you're around that same time frame. You can make changes with minute inserts in your time toward what it is you're trying to accomplish. And the fact that you're not doing it is why it'll never get done.
Right. I totally agree. I think it's interesting that you talked about what you talked about, because I had a few clients. I have not read this book, so I really don't know the inner workings of the book, or if the whole thing's good, or if there's stuff in there that is I'm not in agreement with. But there's that book out there that's called titled "Let Them," and it just kind of reminded me of some of the things that you're speaking about, and just that you shouldn't really mirror someone else's energy, and that it's super important that you don't. And and you can de-escalate so many situations and save yourself a lot of tension, stress, aggravation, strife in a marriage, difficulty at work, and also changing your view and opinion or sort of perception of an environment that you do have to be part of every single day, because you have decided to mirror someone else's image that maybe was just having a bad day. Maybe they were tired, maybe, whatever the circumstances. But yes, if you're in the middle of preparing someone's food and you very respectfully and politely go to that person and say, I'm just in the middle of preparing food, and it's like I don't have a trash can to put the trash in, and I've got some stuff on the stove, and I'm afraid it's going to burn if I go outside to the dumpster. Can you please take the trash out? And that person snaps back at you. Here's a real defining moment. This is a moment of humility. And I have experienced this in my lifetime. And I'm not just saying with John, but like just in business situations and working with clients and their difficult situations, and people just looking for someone to blame. And the reality of it is kind of themselves, and they're just not living up to their own criteria. Like they're not living the way that they think they should be living. And that circumstance, if someone snaps at you about that trash, that's exactly when you can win by not snapping back. Because what would happen if you didn't snap back and you took a deep breath and you stared at them and you smiled and you let them watch you take the trash out yourself, turn the stuff off of the stove, okay, and let it completely inconvenience you in front of that other person, it will make a bigger impact on that person than you being like, well, you know what? Then I'm gonna,
Don't do it with a smirk though, like she's not saying
right. No. Just be
I know
like
what
smile
you mean.
and just
kidding.
be like humble
Just
at
be
heart.
happy about it.
You know
I
what I
can
mean?
make
Just
this
be humble at
happen.
heart.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen is that person, I mean, if they're human at all, is going to be like, I'm sorry, I have just had a hard day. I know I should have taken that trash out. I'm sorry I didn't help you. It might be an hour. It might be the next day, but they're going to come back and say, you needed the help. You were making me dinner. I'm sorry that I didn't pitch in. I've got some other things going on.
And if you're about a year into acting that way, then maybe you're not with the right person.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Sometimes you can try. I'm not saying it's always magic. Like you might try and it might not work. But,
right.
In the beginning, it's going to take some time.
But fight the good fight and don't give up. For more information on what we do at Integrity Training Systems, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. For gluten-free, dairy-free baked goods delivered to your door from my personal bakery, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com.
Welcome back, everybody. This is John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. We've kind of gone a completely different direction today than I intended. It just feels like we needed to continue. Talked about what it means to be a warrior. We've talked about overcoming trials and tribulations, working through things with controlled elements that you actually have control over while letting go of the ones that you do not. We were talking a little bit about it's kind of fascinating doing something for something. I'm going to say two things that are almost going to sound counterproductive to one another, but you have to listen to them for what they are. There's a book that says, and it's talking about spouse, and you could probably apply this in other areas, but it says, with your spouse, if there's things that you want to make your spouse do everything you want them to do, the secret is to do everything that they want you to do. So the concept is if you make your spouse feel loved, I'm not saying that you try to control their happiness. I'm saying that you show effort to help them with the things that they're requesting. Most times, if you are with a quality person, they're going to reciprocate by attempting to do the things for you that you need done as well, because it's a respect thing. Now, the thing that's going to almost sound counterproductive for that, but hang with me, is it talks about basing your happiness on another person, okay? And so it says, when someone else holds the key to your happiness, they also control the key to your sadness. If someone else controls the key to your action, they also hold the key to your inaction. And so if you're constantly trying to be a people pleaser and your happiness and your euphoria and your accomplishment comes of others, when they revoke their pleas and their pleasure, they are actually going to revoke all of your happiness because you've built it on the back of your care about what they think. This is a problem for a couple reasons. It's a problem because it's volatile. You're constantly walking on pins and needles, trying to not offend this person, trying to make sure you do exactly what they want you to do, which is going to build anxiety and potentially depression. Okay. It's going to be very hard to keep up with. And at some point when you chase pleasing someone, it's much like that person doing drugs. You're the drug. They're going to require more of you than you're capable of giving. Because they're going to take, and 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 then finally you're not going to be able to fulfill that high, and they're going to leave. And so then you're left back to square one, feeling worthless, feeling like you can't do anything, you're not worth even talking to or being with or working with or whatever it may be. And another thing to think about is, you could go a lot of different ways with that. That leads to ultimately to, if they decide they want to manipulate you, they can, because you've handed over that key. There's a lot of things to that. But one thing that's commonly overlooked is that if you focus on external sources of happiness, that can distract you from things like personal growth, self-discovery, and building a strong sense of self-worth.
That's good.
So when you're caught in that circle, that loop of not feeling like you're worth something, not being good at what you're doing, feeling like you're stuck, stagnant on the hamster wheel, just spiraling. Why? Mm-hmm. Like, what's the spiral? Are you growing at what you're doing? Like, if you hate your job, are you making it to where you could potentially get a promotion?
And that is honestly when I sit and meet with people on food. Even back to the trash thing, that is honestly why people screw up on their food. Like they will take a situation like that and turn it into, well, I just had such a stressful whatever, and I went ahead and blew it and had pizza, or I went ahead and blew it and had candy, and these are real situations. And so then before we know it, instead of stacking small wins and going ahead and taking the trash out, humbling yourself, or sort of like what John is saying, assessing the situation and just thinking like, what does my husband need? In most cases, it's a shoulder rub.
Hey.
It's a shoulder rub or the massage gun to be used on some part of his body.
Back of my head.
Or some form of food being brought to him on a regular basis. Those are all the things that I typically need to do just because I don't play video games. If I played video games, I could probably fix everything. But those are just things that like I would do, knowing
Yes.
that there'd be something that he would truly want done and try to do them, hopefully before he would even ask.
Yes.
But like then there's even ways that you can apply that to friendships, or you can apply that to work relationships, and just think to yourself like, okay, I have this employee that I need this from, or I have this business associate that I need this from, and they just simply don't provide it. Well, you in turn influence them. You influence them with your behavior, and if you've got those friends that are doing the, well, why can't you just have, one of these or one of those? Show them what healthy living looks like. Don't tell them how unhappy you are that you don't get to have one. Tell them how happy you are to be able to feel the way you feel. When that 85-year-old, or he was 80. And that 80-year-old had an entire group of people in our gym, he wasn't ashamed to be in front of them and be exactly who he was. Even though there were probably people in the crowd that eat cookies every day and don't take care of themselves, that man was happily influencing for health and influencing for happiness.
Right. And without judging
life.
them.
Right,
It's not like he's being pretentious.
And he's not trying to push
his
it on them.
whole, the guy cried talking to me about it. His whole mission is just to help people actually live their life. He talks about people say, oh, I just want to enjoy life a little. I want to live a little. And they're talking about slamming bad food or drinking when they say that. And he's like, no, living a little was actually eating clean and exercising, which gave me 10 more years at this time than they expected me to get to live.
Exactly. I just watched this video today. There were 2 rats, and they put them in this pool, and there was a step they could step on in the center of the pool that would bring them to safety. Okay. One rat that was on an anti-inflammatory diet got in the pool and immediately walked directly to the step. It took 3.7 seconds for him to get to safety. Okay. Second rat comes in. He is on a standard American diet, basically garbage, poisonous foods, and sugar. It took him 35 seconds to even notice that there was a step.
Yeah.
And then time to get onto the step.
Right.
Okay. So like the reality of it is this 80-year-old, John and I, what we want to do is we want to say, actually, the true win in life is when you do eat the anti-inflammatory diet and you do start to feel so amazing.
And listen,
you now have energy to do more with your life and feel better.
Listen, I love bad food. I had a heart attack because I was 100 pounds overweight. You don't get that big without enjoying food. Okay, like I can talk restaurants and food with the best of them. Tell you the phenomenal things. I can tell you my old orders. We can talk food. But listen, you know what's better than the taste of food? Do you know what I train for right now? I train to play with my grandkids when they're 10 years old. Now, my daughter is 13. I don't anticipate having a kid, hopefully, for at least 10 to 15 more years, which would put their 10-year-old child 20 to 25 years from now. I'm 40. That's 60 to 65 that I'm going to be at this time that I expect to roll around and play in the front yard with my grandkids. Okay? That might sound crazy to some of you. Like, that's a far time away, John. Like, you don't even know for sure if you're going to have a grandkid and blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? My daughter's very maternal, and I think I will. But I also know that if I'm eating all this bad food that I love the taste of because I deserve to live a little with the health issues I've had in the past,
you're not going to live
I'm not going to make it. And if I am that age, I'm certainly not going to be rolling around in the ground when I'm osteoarthritic and I just have all of these different issues that have come from being inflamed and yo-yoing my weight and brain fog and not making the right choices and just genuinely feeling like junk, so that's what I'm training for. So when you're talking about living a little, if that truly means having bad food to you, I guess do what you got to do, but maybe it's worth actually getting in your mind and again, winning the small battles and looking for the details. Do you really need the bad food to have a good time and experience life? Or are you chasing something traumatic beneath the surface that you're feeding to try to feel better? And maybe you can replace that.
And you really don't know what you don't know. You've probably never had a life where you know how good you could feel. Let us help you experience that. Yeah, let us help you with that. For more information on a 6-month nutrition program with myself or a free personal fitness assessment with our trainers, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. For gluten-free, dairy-free baked goods delivered to your door from my personal bakery, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com. Thank you for listening, and God bless.